So I have this debilitating scenario. I say debilitating scenario. Pause. So I'm trying to facilitate a better version of what can possibly be displayed at this current moment, the state in which we are in, and not to play on anything that has been said to me in terms of catastrophe, worries, troubles, concern, or the daily usual ritual of having to be stressed out about something as minor as like a date or, you know, what to wear, mostly what to wear, not the date. I'm looking through a theory telescope, a hypothesis, to see how this can be rendered visually. I have the appetite to constantly go towards hygienics and go towards, you know, the most authentic version of myself, and how that plays out is usually with me playing with the idea that if this person could possibly exist and it wasn't me, you know, what would be the payoff? What would be the reaction? What would be the, you know, constant clapback? So I rationalized a few options. You know, I could kind of go the route where I separate myself from, you know, my physical state 100%, and exchange that for just a more pleasantry attitude and also an altitude when I'm around others. You're not supposed to really say that, but another option is to, you know, illuminate and elevate and highlight what is possibly possible with what is already existing. What's already existing, that meaning that I'm, you know, totally in parallel thought and totally in conjunction with my reality of my, you know, struggles, my challenges, my tests, my achievements, my successes, my awards, my certificates, my health concerns, my healthiness, and my self-awareness, my lack of self-awareness, my confusion, my non-confusing state. Most of these things don't exist. However, with me, I like to put things in a pot that don't exist, for the idea that in the communal space that I have been in, most of those things end up, you know, being a part of or being connected to, or, you know, stem from something that I will end up being in, with, or around for a significant amount of time. So that has been an addition and also a subtraction to, you know, the idea that this is something that I will accept and this is something that I will do and be a part of. And then there's another section that is always up in the air, always kind of floating, or maybe I would say just freely kind of depositing itself into different accounts of my conclusive state thus far, like what I have gathered up to be it as conclusion, until, you know, another awry comes or happens, and then, you know, this this experience becomes like more so ongoing and extended. I would hope for it to be like what I've heard of and what I've experienced and what I've, you know, gained along the way is like an upgrade or some type of, you know, one up or some type of, you know, free sample. But what has conjured up into my reality as of what is more prevalent or more proven as evidence towards what will be, rather than what I have actually done, has, levied the bar of the seesaw a little bit onto a space where I am high up in the sky longer than just the periodic, 2 or 3 seconds. So it's necessary for me to speak on what is known and also then have a totality of what can be a potential state, not only for myself, but to know that I have it in some type of category or some type of glossary to where I can, utilize the definition of that space. I think what's harder is having this opportunity to reflect and kind of see myself in a selfie forum and also in a escape, which is totally identical almost to my existing state in the parallel universe of my reality, but that is momentary. It's, by seconds, by minutes, by hours. And what goes on is, the lack of expression and emotion that is within my art, within my being, within my soaking self, which, when wrung out, will, exude the possibility of, not only what I know, but what will, be utilized for another additional, you know, um, fluidity of motion. It, comes in layers, and it being, this form of self-reflective state of diversity, which puts a report on the table that, is more so coming off as a list instead of a sequence of, dimensions and a sequence of um, historical facts that may be due to a lack of thereof, but I think more so it's beginning to look a lot like Christmas. And this year I'm just putting on Christmas lights, just one string, and just in the, natural, traditional uh, light bulb lantern. And what that means in reality is, what you get is what you get. What I got is what you get, but what I have is for me, so you don't really get it. So it's almost important for you to just already have it, so that way we can just both be there. I think I am now at a episode where the institution of what is really within the body of my work and within the body of the existing state of humanity or being human is my connection in relation to the dormant abandonment and adoption to taking on risks, challenges, and taking on, strengths and wisdom that have been there, but, I have not counted up the idea that they don't actually exist or belong together, but they are in fact identified individually and are, very large sectional portions of history and of time and of era and of space. So it's almost impossible for me to consume so much within an original lifetime, being an original person, but that's with the entitlement of originality. And, me going far and then staying close, or staying close and going far, has brought me to a nice huddle of, plan making that, doesn't desire much of a plan, but is more so interested in, the philosophy of the general state of, the possibility of actually being. I like that, and also I don't understand it, but understanding is, more so a part of the lesson, and more so my challenge is trying to lessen that and pick up more of the right away duplicate version of what is really going to be my place and part. So it's nice to know that I have been, an academy of excellence for many high versions of what to be executed as expertise or as, genius, and at the same time that is very, very, very significant in maturity, and how that juvenile state is pressured by, a gate or bars, and not necessarily in a physical notion, because that's not my experience, and I have not truly had the understanding of that or had that space to allow that to happen, just haven't had the time. However, what has come to my divisor is that the divided sections that, exist with those different, life experiences has, connected lessons in general, and has connected, the depth of relation and altitude of familiarity, and the essence of, you know, being a bond or coupling or partnership. And I exist in that space freely as if I am an expert. What I'm realizing that I've always omitted to having to develop and learn more, be more, and also kind of like, you know, range myself to shoot for excellence without having to jump out of a cannonball, without having to climb, a tall mountain, without having to build a cabin. And these are examples of, elevational, societal environments that, I know that I can do hands-on, and I know that I can physically accomplish, but it's the quantitative space that matters most, is what would really be beneficial to that space, and how that space has the, economic state to become even greater or less than by my existence there and my actual presence, with or without my intelligence, with or without my, mistakes, and with or without my passion, or, what I call my, being a lover or hopeless romantic, whatever you want to call it. It's not what I've heard anyone else say, but it has actually given me a single-handed, isolated, crystallized, portion of a reality that now has been signified as mine in a very, large capacity. I believe it to be 100% true, more so than what I can flutter off and imagine in my daydream. A lot of it comes from, I say what's written in the stars, and, if I could name every star or see every star, I would, be very, very pleased with that. But I think I know already in my Rolodex, or just in my general agenda, when it becomes more reality, I think it'll be more a part of not what I can do for you or what it can do for me, but what does it actually, how would that portion off as meaning over time and overall. And I've already have come to that collided space with knowing that it is, a great deal of a state that has a lot of real estate in my world and can't be anything else for anybody else, or I can't have a mindset that falters or can be indecisive when it comes to that true nature. So I hope within this, it's hope that can lead me somewhere, lead me somewhere. But if it's nowhere I go, then my job and the attitude that I would have to take on is still something that would be probably controversial as, good or bad, or at times necessary or not needed. It's still okay for myself to embrace, what's needed, and also release what I no longer can obtain or can no longer carry, with the idea that it can still exist without me and will much likely be in a better space. But I'm thinking that there's so many parallel realms of reality that dance in, partnerships and do the traditional waltz and cross hatch into divisions that are self-serving and that kind of like are self-involved and self-functioning. So that puts, a light on what I am able to do and the possibilities that can be or that are available to me in my space, and that can potentially be endless. And I have to, when I talk to my third person, have to idolize that as an individuality and, take on the pursuit of that excursion, and hopefully understand that a part of the title of an explorer or a colonist or a pioneer is a part of, like a holiday. And the more I practice that, or the more I celebrate, or the more it's a part of my religion or a part of my continual human experience, it'll be more present and alive. And in that result, I'll be more present and alive. So it's not the answer, and I'm not sure if an answer exists or one can be found, but I know that what I've already been seen, or what I've already been seen in, around, and with, and what has already taken place as something that is, a memory, will constantly reassure me that what will become fact over time is not a mystery and it's not missing. And so the things that are there and that, disappear after that fact, I think would be more so a hard shell that I would have to easily break into. And with that bold, promise, I think, a problem may lie there. But if it's what has to be done, is it really ever a problem? So what has to be done will happen anyway. But it's really likely not true if we always make problems and solve them at the same time. And the problem would be that we can never line them up in sequential order. It usually is all happening at the same time, like problems are problems, or happening at separate times, which is like, you solve problems when you get it done. So my alchemy hopefully will be to not have to go over my footsteps that have led me here based on the things that have created a drawback and have withdrew from my actual deck and how that has, debilitated a part of my reproductive system externally, and how that, can still, join what will be and what I hold temporarily and what I experience as just like a phase, um, because I'm due to have more phases and I'm due to have more experiences that, are trivial and also go in and out. And when, the one finds me that loses my control and more so defines just a very significant space in my life, or a very broad space, like a margin, then I know even now that that won't really, be a part of something that is going to be definitive. So this is up to date. I'm just more so going to utilize this as a reference note, and am sharing this with a version of myself that, has been placed inside of, technology, and inside of, something that can be added up to data. And that's aside from my self, really, that, has already been living and breathing soul that has, been placed here. And with my trivial pursuit on as to why am I going towards something that, could potentially not have me go anymore at all, and that has already happened, so why even risk it, is what is existent in life every day, but it's never actually a promise to you or to me or to anyone. So I know that since it's not a promise, then I don't have to hold space for it or an appointment time. But since it's something that becomes, a time consuming activity, then what I have to get up for is not my strength, not my ability to do it, but just choosing, I guess, the right exact name and time and place that will be our meeting zone. So I'm going to carry out, what I've been doing, and honor my mother, honor my father, honor my sisters, honor my brother. And that's my role, because I am the latter of the siblings that have been placed before me and the family that has been established. However, what I will add or bring to the table is not necessarily my identified role, which is like, the ending factor, like the last of the last. So that's because of what I have like just like to do, and because I did it well, and because I had a strong exercise and putting, a lot of focus and attention and detail into what I've been told will work, and that, experience in those different portions of my recipe for disaster, will actually play out more so outside of me. So I can never actually be a threat, or I can never actually be, a hindrance to myself, or I can never actually hurt myself, really. It's been calculated to know that, the sun, the star, the sky, the moon, the water, the land, never actually moves to do that with intention. And I know that us life beings, like animals, plants, and, humans, are in a maze that, has these tall bushes, but it's so well cut and groomed and, beautifully placed that we will call it beautiful, and we will call it beautiful because we respect it, but we will run into chances to apologize for being more so ourselves than, or being more so myself than what is, actually the landscape of the choice of tournament or responsibility at that point in time. I'm able to speak on this in such a well way now that, now I know that that's what it's left for. And so if anything were to, descend from this space, I'm more so contributing to the idea that these inventories that have been uh, designed to counteract, metropolis-sized episodes of, metaphysical nature are an aid to, success. And with being a person that is responsibility to exude that definition based on just like my uh, literal sense, um, it's a combination that will have to be used when there are locks or there are closed spaces that need some type of significant attention at that time. Significance in the way where I'm individually measured by a moment, and how that will be my lifespan of excellence, and how that moment in time will be more divisional than the existing space that I just kind of carry myself through every day. And I'm more so hoping that that will be a potential choice in the universe that I can play in. But I know the universe is wide, but it hasn't left anyone behind yet, and has already, taken a directorial choice by removing lives and removing places and things that we thought would be around forever. So it's a you know hypothesis, I'm guessing more so, but I already know the conclusion I want will be this, but the test it out is always going to be based on your range of sources, and my range of sources are um, great, but are very limited, very time sensitive, and very very few in terms of like selection. And what I get out of it is mostly you know a minimal acute space of a really great experience that I can hold for myself or share. And most of the time, you know, that is not done solely individually by myself. And what happens is, the actual element of the design of the actual resource gets kind of uh, abandoned or, ignored. So my attentiveness is very, very well, and I've done a good job being a great partner, being a great listener, being a great passenger, being a great associate, and being a great et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Because as an adult, you lose interest in being anything for anybody else or being something special for a reason, because you really start to understand the reality is the adult that you are is from the child that you were, and you are not just placed here based on your sole desire to just be born. So um maybe I'll get to a point for everybody where that will be the conclusion, that somewhere along the line we asked for this and that's why we're here. But you know I said that heaven has like roll calls and auditions for parts up there, and they need models. And so that's why my grandmom and my brother and my dad and like everybody else went to heaven or just left, because like there were other jobs or other shoots and other photo shoots and fashion films that they had to like be there for. And so I know that my role was heavy, but that's just my, again, personal estimate, and how that personal estimate is relieved by people having a connection to it, very very much so, from what I believe, and not mostly from what I heard. I keep the choice and the option open for a person to divulge their intimacy based on comfort zone and comfort level. And more so, when that is done, I have a limited amount of time to where I can actually like, be there, because then, I have to leave and it has to be your reward again. So I don't know what that means all the way because it's not very clear. But I'm instituting that this is already enough of a theory that can be placed on some type of investment and some type of experimental cause at some point in time in life, because I don't think it's ever unnecessary when it's like on recording, or when it's me in a really like raw space, or me just in a really natural raw space where I'm not actually like in full professional attire. But I'm going to share this anyway. It's going on 30 minutes now on my phone time, it says. And I know all of it won't post, but somewhere down the line, if it gets to just, a minute or a few seconds, hopefully the detail of my existence and the importance of the whole overall picture has at least, some type of panel where you can know what to get from it right away. This is Ryän B.adBunn.i, aka Ryän Wayani Merrill Butler, signing off. Thank you for your time. I appreciate you. And most of all, Ryan, you're doing a great job. Ryan's up there, you're doing a great job. Everyone's doing a great job as the name.